Welcome everybody to Helping Your Students Demonstrate Learning. This is week 2 of our FACT2 Innovative Assessment Symposium. And this week we're going to take a look at real world assessment and what this can look like for your students. So just to give you a little bit of background of our Innovative Assessment Task Group, we were tasked with taking a look at alternative ways of assessing student performance, including getting feedback and grading and helping to identify 4 main methods of our group's assessment innovative methodologies. Last week, we took a look at multiple pathways for assessment. This week, we're going to take a deeper dive for real world assessment. And the next 2 weeks, we're going to take a look at diversity and equity assessment, followed by our last week with learning recognition assessment. So just a quick reminder that every week, every Thursday during the month of April at 1 p.m., we are going to continue on with our innovative assessment. Again, next week, we'll take a look at strategies for creating socially unjust assessments. And then on Thursday, April 28th at 1 p.m., our last symposium webinar will be re-examining assessing classroom learning using e-portfolios. And then certainly, and I'll put it in the chat for everybody as well, we have our amazing website that I do have to thank everybody for working on, where we created a lovely repository where you can learn more about each of the 4 different areas of innovative assessment, some more research on it, and also some best practices. And we invite you to submit your assessment strategy so that we can keep gathering these best practices from around the state. So the mission of this working group, real world assessment, was taking a look at authentic assessments, which basically comes down to students taking ownership of the assessment process. They're creating and composing something that's intended for a real audience with a real purpose. Not that normally we don't have real audiences and real purposes, but this is specific to going outside of the classroom, where you are looking at getting professional feedback from the instructor or other students in the course. And we want to make sure that grades taken into account, but also that you're doing judgment for a specific purpose beyond just the scope of learning for that course. So there are a lot of different key areas that we explored, and we're going to try to get through them as much as possible, and then certainly take a deeper dive into each of the different areas. Authentic assessment, lower level assessment, educative assessment, applied learning and service learning assessment, simulation assessment, case study assessment, project-based assessment, performance-based assessment, problem-based assessment, iterative design, and collaborative assessment, and open pedagogy assessment. So there are a lot of ways that you can assess real-world learning, and the idea is not to do all of them, but to pick and choose what works best for your course. So to give you a little bit of background on each of the different areas, let's take a look. So when we talk about authentic assessment, we're taking a look at when students are creating or proposing something that is intended for, again, a real audience or real purpose in a real forum that is above and beyond the course. So you're receiving real feedback that's outside of the classroom. Students can use this for something specific, whether it be an internship. Students could use this something specific for a capstone for a course. They can use it that's being modeled in a program. Those authentic assessments don't require outside audiences, but are otherwise considered real world. They can still have that outside audience as well, but they're not truly authentic. They are best when you are looking at traditional assignments that are engaging students in real world creation and composition of what it is that they're learning about. So to give you more targeted examples, that could include writing an essay for a real publication, where a student can submit the essay to a journal or to send it to real members of an audience for real-time feedback. So you do get your grade within your course, but then certainly you also get the feedback outside the course. Students can build a bridge, for example, from balsa wood, and then have it to appropriate way vehicles of the bridge. And that can help you assess physics, engineering, and how the bridge actually works, which would be not only the scope of the course, but above and beyond, so that you can learn more realistically what is intended out in the field. Students can create a healthcare plan for a real patient, certainly anonymous, but they can then bring that healthcare plan to professionals so that they learn a little bit more job skills. So you can already see that your authentic assessment is you're learning about something and you're using it in an experience that can help the student beyond the class. Some more examples can include research and writing a report, student debate with either individuals or groups where you're debating about a specific topic that can be included in the course, but that can be used again out in the field. Drawing or writing about a story or a chapter, experiments where students are learning about trial and error learning, journal entries for reflective writing, and then certainly discussions with partners or groups. So when you think about how can I actually use authentic assessment, very simple. You're breaking down the learning objectives and you're working in small steps. You're helping to use those small learning objectives to build a community of practice. And this is best done through backwards design. You're just tapping into students' interests and you're looking to see what it is that the student needs and then creating the authentic assignment to be assessed around that, rather than just creating the assignment and then saying, how does this fit into the course? How does this fit into student learning? So using backwards design to build that community of practice and to create that authentic experience of student learning certainly helps build that for them. Taking a look at lower level assessment, this is when we take a look at the assignments that require students to produce products that are either modeled on compositions intended for real world audience or real purpose or form, but they're not actually, again, submitted to a real audience. Very much like authentic assessment, the only difference is that these are not submitted to a real audience. With authentic assessment, they could be. So some examples could be having a student be required to write a letter to the editor of Newsday, which is a specific form. It's a local paper down here. It could be any newspaper. Students would not actually submit that assignment or that letter to the editor of a newspaper, but it has that context of a real world form beyond the classroom, as opposed to authentic assessment where they would actually submit that letter to the editor. So lower level, you're still doing that component, it's just you're not actually submitting. Taking a look at educative assessment, there are 4 major components. This is a little bit trickier. Taking a look at forward thinking assessment task, where you're studying students' comprehension, and forward thinking tasks, where you're creating those realistic assessment and situations beyond the end of the course. So you have your course, you have your learning outcomes, you have your assessment, and then what would be the next step once the course ends? How do you keep that learning going beyond the scope of your course? Taking a look at criteria and standards. This is something that many of us do, where you're creating rubrics that denote certain end products, that the student level standards are distinguished on a performance scale so that students know from day one what the expectation is between their learning outcomes and their criteria through the rubric and being able to incorporate that into learning. I know some people don't give the rubric out until after the assignment is done, which is fine, but if a student has it beforehand, they know what level they can and should be doing their work up to for those standards. Last week, we talked about multiple pathways, and we took a look at different changes in how we can take a look at grading, contract grading, specification grading. This goes hand in hand where you're taking a look at, do you give the rubric out after the assignment, or do you give it out at the beginning so the students have that expectation? Our expectation as educators is that they're going to get the highest level on that rubric. Their expectation may be somewhere in the middle to say, yes, I've completed that assignment. They're not necessarily going for the A, they're going for, did I complete that assignment? And that's where you can start to have these innovative ways of doing assessment by changing up how you may grade and changing up how the students are learning and assessed. Self-assessment, being able to give students the opportunity to assess their own work. Constructive feedback is always helpful, but having the students take a look at what they're doing. I know a lot of people will have students, if they're writing, just get the information out there, start writing something so that you have something, a place to start with, and then we can refine the process and refine what you're writing about going through the reflective process. Being able to say, yes, we have the information, rather than let's just sit down and write it from square one. That's very difficult for some students. I know in the sciences where I teach, having the students sit down and start doing data analysis, it's very difficult for them. So how can we look at it quantitatively, qualitatively, being able to express what their understanding is and then assess where those gaps may exist. And then certainly feedback, being able to give that information for students so that we respect students' integrity, their readiness to learn, but we also give them that latitude that they understand the material, they're able to demonstrate it, and then how can we bring that back to further their learning? So some examples could be very simple, a review process. And SUNY Canton has a great review process where they have certain standards and then they take a look at those standards. Are the students meeting them? Is the faculty assessing them? Is the faculty actually teaching them? And then how we go through the review cycle for those different criteria. And that's a wonderful way of building out your course or changing your course. And now may be the time with a lot of us changing to D2L, here's a time to really take a look at your course and how we can refresh your assessment component as you're rebuilding. And that link will be shared in the slide deck. Make it easier for you. Sorry, Sheldon. Taking a look at applied learning and service learning assessment. This is another great way of promoting in-class participation, involving students in the teaching and learning process of a lesson, encouraging conversations and debates between students and building their speaking skills and their confidence, where they're actually going out and creating something that can be used in the course, that can be used out in the community, and then bringing that back in. Some research that can include is using credit for co-curricular research or co-curricular opportunities where faculty are working with graduate students or even faculty working with undergrad students, being able to do this under a grant or a course requirement, having a context for that realistic research, whether it's in a lab condition or employments for future education opportunities. From a non-research perspective, internships, where you're engaging students in real-world work through corporations, local businesses, nonprofits, using third-party companies to track activities for assessment. These internships can be in person. We've seen over the past 2 years, a lot of people have done well with virtual internships. I know I have a virtual intern from Venezuela. Being able to reach out worldwide is wonderful. Reaching the entire world, you're bringing them back into your classroom and a wonderful opportunity. Being able to give the students ownership on how that internship may be designed for their specific learning. Again, you're bringing that into the classroom, you're making that connection. This is what they need to know, this is how I'm going to assess them, and then bringing it back out to the student to have that ownership of what it is that I need to know for my course, for my internship, and my future goals. A lot of internships are not necessarily credit bearing. There's a lot of opportunities where you can do a small internship with a third-party company where students learn certain competencies and skill sets that can be incorporated into the course, but they're not lengthy internships. They're not quote the formal internships that we're used to. You're building on a certain amount of knowledge and then bringing that into the class, and how do students incorporate that? Another option for applied learning and service learning is creating different events where students can actively participate. I know I chair our first year experience committee, and we have a day of service where students are doing curricular and co-curricular opportunities, both on campus and off, having real world value to their learning experience, working with community partners, working with clubs and organizations on campus, being able to have a dedicated time and space to bring back to the community and say, this is what I know, let me share it out with you. Or this is what I want to help you with, let me share it out with you, and having that give and take. It provides partnering with communities. It allows for civic engagement experiences and projects. And again, these will last anywhere from a few hours to a few days, up to a few semesters. Simulation assessment, one of my favorites. Having an imitation of a process or a system that uses technology to mimic those realistic examples. Being able to provide simulations where you're processing events, we're using assessive cognitive skills and affective psychomotor skills to be able to observe those changes. They're not actually happening. We're simulating what's going on out in the world, reality, or where it happens to be our marketing space. We take a look at some simulation examples. They can include clinical skills and a medical simulation where standard access to patients is not always the easiest to have by design or have in the classroom. So being able to diagnose or being able to do entry-level patient assessment is something that you need. You have your clinical time, but how do you incorporate that into the class when you are not in clinicals? So being able to have those simulations, you're able to keep drawing on it and allowing the students the opportunity to keep working on their skill sets. Student teaching. That is basic definition of simulation, where you're going in, you're teaching students, but you still have somebody kind of backing you up. Yes, they are real students as opposed to, a simulated student, but it's a different type of environment. You're not going out and saying, I have the class, don't have the experience, and I'm on my own. You always have that give and take where someone's backing you, someone's helping you. Simulation could be as simple as performance, where you're demonstrating student skill sets. It could be a scenario for decision making. This is great for mimicking heart attack if you're looking at program management in a medical simulation. It could be a scenario in economics where you are playing around with the stock market. It could be something as simple as creating things that you wouldn't necessarily create in real life. You're not going to create an earthquake. You're not going to create weather patterns, but you can see if these exist, what would the outcome be, and model that. I always love to tell my STEM students that, go ahead, blow up the building, I don't care, because it's simulated. If we had that option in class, would I ever tell them that? No, never. But you want them to be able to say, this is what I should do, this is what I shouldn't do, and how can I learn from it? So again, you're bringing back the autonomy of learning. You're bringing back the students being able to say, yes, I've learned, yes, I understand, or maybe I shouldn't have done that. Turn it over to Adele.
So case studies assessment involves scaffolding the content, rubrics, very important, rubrics used by the faculty in the case study assessment, but also rubrics used by the students in peer reviews. So students see what other students are doing and learning from them as well. So some case studies examples, creating, 4 to 5 case studies of similar difficulties and having students work in groups, maybe 4 to 5, to go through the case study and to analyze them. Then the instructor would take some time, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe more, for students to actually go through the cases. And then the instructor would be addressing questions pertaining to the case studies with each group, walking around the classroom and discussing these topics with each group. The instructor could call on the groups randomly and ask students to share their analysis until each group has addressed their case study. Project-based assessments are an alternative to tests and allow students to actively engage in their learning in much more concrete ways. For example, hands-on projects where students apply what they've learned to much more in-depth exploration of the topic. And that could be through a conference presentation or even research. And these allow the students to really delve into the topic and be specific in their learning. Some examples and characteristics of PBL that they all have in common is they're exploring a central topic or concept or question. They're investigating the topic, and their students are learning through specific goals or defined goals. The knowledge builds constructively and it continues to build on the topic. And projects are student-centered and teacher facilitated. So the teacher's not the sage on the stage, but is kind of walking around, facilitating students' learning as they are actively engaged. The projects are real world and have, some specific significance to the student, and that helps in their own engagement of the topic and in their own learning. There's usually a task, a process, and a product, and then a reflection. For example, media, having students create a TV or a video project of a topic that they themselves are interested in, but yet, it's storytelling. So they're coming up with the topic and then creating the product and then analyzing and reflecting if it worked out. And some ways to use project-based assessment. Teaching method requires students to engage with each other to solve problems or build case studies. So students are digging deeper into the topic, as I said before, to understand how to best tackle certain problems and real world challenges, like planning a garden or a city, planning a city, or designing a new form of government, or solving a fake news issue. How do you take something that is fake news and realize that it's fake news, and how do you mitigate that issue? So performance-based assessment requires students to use higher level thinking to perform, create, or produce something with transferable real world application. And some of the features include using a real world scenario where students assume roles in a scenario that occurs in a real world and contains types of problems they may need to solve a few problem in the future. So, that could be, like I said, in media production or medical scenarios where, they're making real world decisions. Authentic, complex process. The scenario reflects the complexity and ambiguity of real world challenges where there might not be a right or wrong answer, and solutions may not be that obvious or even given by the professor. Information on a situation might be conflicting or partial, and there could be competing frameworks or positions in this. It's a higher order thinking. It's a little bit more challenging. The task requires students to engage in critical thinking and analytical reasoning and problem solving. The focus is on analyzing, synthesizing, and applying evidence, which is higher order thinking in Bloom's taxonomy, in order to arrive to a judgment or a decision. Authentic performance. The product that the students create reflects what someone assuming that role would produce, a memo, a presentation, or other written work. So it's very authentic. Transparent evaluation criteria. The learning outcomes drive the creation of the task. So whatever the learning outcomes may be are created around what the students will be doing. So it could be very scaffold and step by step to arrive to that learning outcome. And here's some possibilities for real world observation of students as they perform. And for example, a collaborative online international learning in COIL projects. Here's the rubric for one. Maybe it's not coming up, so we'll have the link later. Now here it comes. So students in a COIL are performing group tasks, and they're either, working to create a product together at the very end, or they are working to solve a problem. Honestly, COIL is probably the most real type of real world assessment that you could possibly do, because students are working virtually, they're working with others. It involves intercultural knowledge and competency skills. They develop skills that are practical in the real world, in the global world. So yes, and it stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. And here's some of the, okay, you could check that out later. And then there are other observations for clinical rounds, students teaching end of semester assessments. Can you click that, Chilton? There we go. So here's a special ed assessment. And really, you can't get any more real than this in terms of assessment. So as you go through the grading rubric, you'll see that students are working to create, to be evaluated by whatever the grading criteria is. We can advance that, can we, Chilton? Thank you. So here are the criterias for the special ed, and we go from, exceeding the standards to meeting the standards to approaching the standards. And all the criteria students need to meet to reach those standards. Next slide. Problem-based assessment is a teaching method in which complex real-world problems are used as a vehicle to promote student learning of concepts and principles, as opposed to direct presentation of facts and concepts. In addition to course content, PBL can promote the development of critical thinking skills, problem-solving abilities, and communication skills. It can provide opportunities for working in groups and finding and evaluating research materials and lifelong learning. And here's some examples. These are really great examples. And I encourage you to look at these resources once you get the slide decks, but maybe you could click the first one. And you can see like different so this is neuroscience curriculum.
It's a great opportunity to take research and pull it back into the class, where you're looking at a realistic, authentic problem that's going on in the class in a clinical setting, and then being able to build on that.
Thank you. Had some audio problems there. Okay, do you want to continue with the common problem project, or should we move on? This is out of Suny Plattsburgh, also innovative. If you could see common problem project, if you continue further on, it's for different disciplines. such as the sciences, humanities, business, and social sciences, the expected outcome. And there's lots of resources here to go through. And iterative design assessment, it's commonly used in the computer science industry, where you're using there's a practice of short cycles of going through daily project manager meetings and demos and analysis. It's a shorter turnaround on assessments, but they're smaller assessments, and there are 3 unique stages. You formulate, test, and evaluate. It's the opposite of backward design in that you're designing the assessments on the fly as the students are progressing. You kind of understand where they're going and how they're learning, and create the assessments accordingly. It's a great training for anyone who manages projects, and it's tightening the assessment loop. And here are some examples. This is out of University of Michigan, I believe, and how the process goes through, iterative design.
This is a really this is a really great technique for not just management skills, not just project management, but really time on task, teaching students how they can learn something in smaller chunks and build on that scaffolded knowledge to create a project, to work on a project, and then certainly start assessing it as you're going along in smaller components. You need part A to get to part B. What happens if you didn't complete part A? What happens if you didn't get part A correctly? How can you continue to move on?
Correct. Yeah, so it's continuous, but smaller assessment, analyzing each step and proceeding from there. Okay, next slide. Collaborative assessment also involves collaborating in a team. There's a lot of teamwork here, and their honest reflection as to why the product didn't work and what they need to change. So they're continuously reflecting, problem solving. The assessment itself is a group activity. The group activity models how it is in the workplace and how it actually functions working in a team. So students are constantly looking at their topic and working to change it, see what needed to be changed, what worked, what didn't work, and self-assessing. Nicole, did you want to add anything to that? Okay. So collaborative learning is group-based learning, also where students get together to create questions, solve problems, and learn together. It's a collective effort made to understand topics, complex topics and frameworks, design group assessments and activities around a question or a problem that requires interaction. Discussion boards are used as well, and where students engage with each other there as well. And peer review, learners are given more responsibility to monitor and reflect their own learning as well as those of their peers.
I just want to comment really quickly. Hope just jumped ahead and put in the chat. Thank you. This is COIL. This is COIL
Yes.
to the nth degree, being able to either have a project or allow students the autonomy to create a project. I think some of us do it both ways, where we say, this is the project and we need you to work on these components, but allowing students to develop and design their own projects is a wonderful example. They're collaborating in a group, they're being able to work on different team aspects, they're being able to be self-sufficient in creating what type of management style they need, what type of project style they need, what type of technology they're using. So you've had one assessment and look at how much information you get out of it. Or you could look at it this way, you have one project and look at how much assessment you can get out of it. Allowing students to really create what it is that they need by giving them a little bit of prompting. What do you need for this learning outcome? How are you going to go about and design? And this is really real world assessment because it's realistic. How are you using it out in the field, or how are you using it out in daily life? What is the problem? How can we build on it?
Yes, and specifically in COIL, they're working in a global environment and virtually, and they need to know not only how to communicate with others and work with others, different people. It's all about DEI and learning technology as well. So there's a lot of moving components when it comes to COIL. So it is one of the best ways to do a project. Open pedagogy assessment is the practice of engaging with students as creators of information rather than simply consumers of it. It's a form of experiential learning in which students demonstrate understanding through the act of creation. The products of open pedagogy are student created and openly licensed so that they may live outside the classroom in a way that has impact on the greater community. And honestly, this is, you know, out of the box thinking. It's really helping students to move away from the classroom, but to really engage in these open educational resources, which are great. You can look at the Introduction to Open Pedagogy by the University of Texas, Arlington Libraries. All of them, most of them are under the Creative Commons, and there's lots of great videos, textbooks, quizzes, learning modules, all under OER. And it's a great way to get ideas, but also resources.
Being able to just use OER material, open educational resources, is a fantastic opportunity for your students. Have you ever sat down and thought one day, I want to write a textbook, where on earth do I begin? Some people are lucky enough to do it. Some people need a little bit of prompting. Here you have an opportunity to say, I have wonderful ideas, how can I frame it out to best suit my students? Or somebody else has these wonderful ideas, how do I contribute to it and share it out to my students? So once you're able to do that, the next iteration is open pedagogy. How do I get my students involved in the learning process? Being able to pull students in and say, here's a project, let's work on this. Or we're designing a project, how do you create that rubric? The onus doesn't always have to be on you. Put a little bit of onus on the students and have them help create those resources, share that information, and then certainly put it under Creative Commons license and share it out with people. I know that my students have done some wonderful work. I teach a course where I have a tremendous amount of art and photo majors. Scientist, I don't draw. They do a wonderful example. So here's an opportunity for students to, okay, here's my assignment. I need you to go back and create, develop. It's all about framing. You know, take a look at Bloom's taxonomy. Don't always go with the standard language. Open it up, explore, explain. There's so many ways that you could use a simple verb change to open up what it is that you want the students to do for assessment. Students are able to create work. Since I have art and photo majors, go with what you know, let them develop something for their discipline. They create the work, they bring it back to class. Now they're able to really show what it is that they've learned, and they have the added benefit that they could use this in their portfolio going forward. The only thing I need from them is just sign off a little bit of permission that says, yes, I could use this for the future. Let's put a Creative Commons license on it. So now I have a student, their year one of their course studies, they're developing a portfolio for their class, and whatever that portfolio happens to mean for their discipline, they're able to share something in a course And now you're able to share it out with the entire world. And to be able to say, I'm 18 years old, I'm 17 years old, I just started college, I'm putting something out on the web that is not TikTok or that is not like Snapchat or something. I've been able to create something that is a little bit better than that. It's something that it can be used for my future discipline, for my course studies, and more importantly, in other people's avenues and what they're teaching. And to be able to say, I'm sharing this out.
Absolutely. And if you click on the Introduction to Open Pedagogy, you'll see access to all kinds of art and photographs that you can use easily. And like Nicole said, this is stuff that students themselves can contribute through Creative License, Creative Commons. And again, there's the Suny Open Pedagogy Explorer. Under the Open Pedagogy Approaches for Faculty, Library, and Student Collaborations, can you click that? I think that was the one with all the artwork. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was the book by Alexis Clifton from SUNY Geneseo and Kimberly Davis Hoffman, and that's downloadable and they're sharing it with the world. So that's a good book to go through, actually. Try the next one. I think it was, yeah, I think that's a, oh, I don't know. There was an area where you can, one of these links, you can literally download pictures, artwork that students have done and use them in your own teaching, or they can contribute, as Nicole had said.
Absolutely. And I will put in the chat, there are tons of different sites that you have openly licensed pictures. My students always joke that, you know, after a break, I come back with my vacation pictures. I'm like, no, but I'm intentional when I take them. I'm intentional with what I share. I'm not just sharing them just for the heck of it, but there's an intentionality. If I'm going someplace for vacation, that I want to be mindful teaching science to show you geology, to show you environmentalism, to show you what's going on. Put a Creative Commons license up, share it out. I know people are using it for many other reasons, but to be able to say, okay, here's a starting point. To be able to say, this is what I'm trying to show you. I can't bring you out to the world all the time, but I can bring the world into you. So I'll add some information in the chat for you for really nice openly licensed images and pictures.
It's really, yeah, they're in there because I saw them earlier. It's really using out of the box thinking to engage students outside of the discipline in the real world, but also they're engaged outside of a textbook and everyday lectures. It's something that students would be more interested in and will learn. They'll actually find it much more interesting than a professor on the in front of a blackboard lecturing. So it's a fun way for them to learn and engaged in the topic. I think we did this. Nicole, you want to take that?
Sure. Before we open it up to questions and everybody, I just want to remind you guys again that our upcoming schedule, this week we took a look at what was going on with some real world assessment, and that's where we want to save some time at the end to hear some of the different wonderful assessments that you've been doing in your classes. Again, just a reminder that next week we have our strategies for creating socially just assessments. And then finally, week 4 would be on Thursday, April 28th, re-examining, assessing, and classroom learning using e-portfolios. Also, how to stay involved. Well, we have a 4-week challenge, an assessment challenge that'll start May 2nd through the 27th. I realize that that's finals for everybody, But we really want you to start thinking as you're doing your grading, take a look at your grading and saying, hey, this worked, maybe this doesn't work, maybe this is something I might want to refresh, and participate in the 4-week challenge. Everybody who has signed up for the symposium will be automatically included in the 4-week assessment challenge. If you want to opt out, you can let Chilton and I know, and we can opt you out of the information. But again, it's going to be, I say May 2nd through the 27th. I'll certainly keep it open longer, so there's no rush to complete everything on time. And I just want to give you a link, and we'll go through the Padlet really quick. If you go to the next slide, Chilton, I will show everybody the Padlet. Thank you. So what it is a 4-week walkthrough of our form, where we take a look at reviewing the working groups, what each of the 4 weeks of the symposium was about. So just to remind you of what it is that we learned each week, what it is that we're trying to kind of help you develop your skill set for assessment, and more importantly, what aspect really speaks to you as an educator and for your discipline and for your students on what works best to change up and do some more innovative assessment. Taking a look at best practices on what would be included in your assessment, how you can take those learning outcomes and update your syllabus to change things, whether it's contract or specifications grading, or adding more simulations or applied learning opportunities, making a socially just assessment example for your students, or syllabus, or even creating something as simple as prior learning and learning knowledge. Then actually choosing what you want to change, what activity, what assignment. We're not looking for you to change everything in your entire course. If you would, that'd be fantastic, but it's not going to be done all in one sitting. You want to make sure that you're changing your syllabus, your learning outcomes, and 1 or 2 activities over time. Once you start getting the hang of it, once you find, your rhythm and what really works for your discipline, for your course and students, you may find yourself changing all of your assignments. And it's not necessarily going to be the same assessment. Every assignment may be unique in a different type of assessment, which is why we have the month-long challenge to explore and learn a little bit about all of them. Then from that point, you're going into the 3rd and 4th week, where we actually want you to sit down and really do some hard work. How are you going to change it? What are you changing? And we're going to help you out with some feedback and really designing some of that. And then following the 4-week challenge, we invite you to then go back to add your information to the form, fill out and complete that form, and share your best practices, share what you've learned, what you've changed with everybody out in the community. And we can certainly put that information back out on the website so that we can see what it is that our students are doing. Now, I don't expect you in 1 hour over 4 weeks to learn everything. That'd be wonderful, but that's a really big ask. So certainly go back to the website. We do have the recordings from all of and we will have them from all of our webinars. We will certainly have all the slide desks with the links, so you can go do a deeper dive and explore a little bit more. But more importantly, we have, again, the information, what was being done over the past 2 years to teach and educate everybody about different innovative assessments, further research. Sometimes it's just easier to see who did this in what area and how did it really work. For those of you who are not research minded, that just want to know, I want to know what's done in the classroom. What can I take a look at? What can I know now? We have all examples, and we are constantly adding those examples to the website. So they will be changing weekly after everybody's had that opportunity to add more information. You can go back. Sometimes it may be in your discipline, maybe it may not be, but at least it gives you ideas to say, I want to do this new type of assessment in this field. So now you can go back and explore. Or I want to do something, but I don't know where to start. Where's my discipline? Now let me take a look at how other people did it, and maybe I'll model that. And I'll go back and say, that's my discipline, but I never thought about how to assess it in that way. Now I can continue it forward. Now I can use that information. So you have both sets of resources. You have the webinar series. You certainly have the website to go back and explore over the next couple of weeks, and it'll certainly be open afterwards. And then you have that 4-week challenge where you can say, I've learned, I'm doing, let's start changing our ways of assessing students. Again, perfect opportunity for those of you who are moving to D2L. If you're not yet, perfect opportunity to take a little bit of a step back and say, now I can start changing things. And then when I have a bright, shiny new LMS system, I can put bright, nice, shiny new assessment innovation into play for our students. So with that, I thank you all. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat and explain a little bit more for you. Nobody has any questions? I feel like I'm back in class. Real world is probably one of the trickiest ways of doing things. Not that it's hard to do, but there's so many different components. Where do I start? When you really think about it, you've actually been doing it. You just need to put a name to what it is that you're doing in your class.
Yep, I'm just seeing Amanda saying that she does this in her courses. Yeah, I do this too, and you don't realize that you're assessing them in different ways. So there are lots of great examples of real world assessment. And I think students appreciate it in their learning.
Yes, being able to say, I do this already. Here's an example. How can I put a name to what it is that I'm doing? And just reframe what you're thinking. Being able to give students the ability to design what it is that they want to help out with in the course through open pedagogy, design how they want to help out in the community through service learning, design what it is that they want to do in their discipline out in the field, whether it's a simulation or being able to bring inferences from what's going on through authentic assessment or different aspects of lower or higher level learning.
Yes, and using concepts from Bloom's taxonomy and backward design. Many of these, are applicable and should be used. And that's when you start to realize how, to really engage your students in real world learning. So it's a great way of incorporating what you're teaching and giving students some context into what they're learning.
Question, Robin? Jump right in.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. This has been a wonderful session, and the series looks really good. Love the work that everybody has done on this. Thank you. I'm wondering, one part of real authentic world is group and team-based learning. You talked about that a little bit, and I'm just wondering about the idea for peer review and self-review. Are those resources that you might have in all of those wonderful links that you were sharing, or are they coming up in future? Just more trying to figure out how to get students to say more than, oh yeah, that's great. How do you do that?
Certainly rubrics helps. I know students love rubrics. I mean, they love them, but they hate them. They love them because at least there's that upfront expectation. I know what I should be doing. They need that prompt. They need that little push to, where do I even begin? If it's a traditional assignment, they can do traditional feedback. But if it's something a little bit different, like group work or a self-review, where do you start? Another way of doing it is giving a student a prompt. I love doing that in my class, where I give students prompts and say, this is how you model something, or this is what I'm looking for, which essentially is a rubric. You're just not putting it in the little box with your numbers. You're giving them something to model. So I would say modeling would be a fantastic example. And I can actually put some more links in the slide deck before we post. It helps you out.
Even guidelines. I give my student guidelines to help them understand where to go with their project. And that's important. So, and in terms of peer review, Robin, you're right. Students tend to say, oh, great. Oh, this or that. They need to learn how to be respectful in their critique. And I think that should be a part of the rubric that the instructor gives them. So it's very important that I think the instructor think about what they want their students to get out of this, doing, this peer review. And I think that's, in my opinion, one of the main things, that they know how to give constructive criticism without hurting anyone's feelings, but not reverting to, oh, that was terrific, great job.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, Jeffrey?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I think that the peer review is one of the most important things that has come up in this for me, because there is real substantial research that students learn better from each other, because peer-to-peer requires them to contextualize the assignment in a way that is based on two people or two groups having actually done the work. And I think that the critique part is really tough. And I just wanted to suggest that anybody using peer-to-peer also do a brief section on how to give and receive criticism. Because too many people use the word I like, I love, keep going, because they don't understand how to ask clarifying questions. And they also don't understand how to accept criticism as a way of evolving in growing in what they're doing. And I kind of feel that the critique issue is almost a task group in itself, because many teachers also have these struggles on how to tell students constructively what they need to do, which is one of the reasons I'm going to go back with my old friend John Kane to the ungrading principle, where not everything is a high stakes, assessment, that sometimes just giving people credit for participation is the way to go, in a more binary way, right? You did it or you didn't do it kind of thing, because it liberates the students to speak more freely without feeling that if they disagree with an authority, anybody holding that authority. So anybody who knows me knows I can't leave a meeting without making a comment, but I just wanted to stick that in there and also congratulate everybody in the task group, for their incredible work.
Jeffrey, I think you made some excellent points. Critiquing is the toughest part. Critiquing your peer is, oh my God, students hate that. So I think you said something that's very important: low stakes, making it something that's, you're not docking the student for saying something, but within the guidelines to, to give your peer to say, I would have done it like this. That was an interesting way of doing it. So students can learn from each other. And I think that's the idea behind peer reviews. And I think if students know that, that's a big chunk right there to helping them give that critique.
I agree.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. And I think also giving them prompts sometimes helps them. Where do I begin this process? Giving them prompts to say, thank you, but I'm confused on, or what is the muddiest point on something? And how to give them those prompts back to say, thank you for your suggestion or comment, and ... Or this is how you go about explaining, or this is how you accept the criticism, and then how can we change whatever happens to be the criticism about, or the suggestion. I hate using, negative terms like criticism. Sometimes just a suggestion or a comment, or just clarification.
I just threw a link in the chat for something that I use with my students, where they actually do a 4-credit assignment on discussing their experiences having received or having given criticism, and then using the article as a way of contextualizing ways they could have done it better. It's not a long read, but if anybody has anything better, I'd love it. But this still works for me, even though it's been around for a while. It's getting a little yellow, but it still works.
Thank you. And I will add that to the slide deck as well.
That
Again,
sounds perfect. I just looked at it. It looks really good. Thank you, Jeff.
I want to thank everybody for coming today. Again, website's up there. Please check out the resources, the slide deck, and the video, the guess the video will be up in a couple of days for you. If you have an assessment strategy, please feel free to just jump right in and post the information on our form, and we will put it up on the website for everybody to have for the future. I want to remind everybody we are in week 2. We still have 2 more weeks, and we look forward to the next discussion on socially just assessment. So thank you.